Jen, what I wanted to talk about is transitioning to the infrastructure bill of Joe Biden. So he's been talking a lot lately about wanting 2 years of free community college to be part of his infrastructure plan. And I'm absolutely supportive of making community colleges totally free. Many of my own students wind up going to community colleges because it's a much more affordable option. So absolutely, community colleges need more funding. But I also think, especially when we're talking about a big infrastructure bill, trade schools should be a part of the conversation. Many of the jobs that would be created in Biden's infrastructure bill are ones that don't require a college diploma, but do require a certification or a license of some kind. And we all know how wildly explosive higher education has become, or wildly expensive, sorry. There is a $1.5 trillion in student debt in this country, and that number is only going to get bigger. For many, student debt is a financial stress that will last well into old age, or if not their whole entire life. And it delays big life decisions like starting a family or owning a home. So trade schools offer a much more affordable option, especially for working class people. Most trade school programs take no more than 2 years, and often you leave with better job prospects. Students can go to a trade school and leave with a job in a unionized trade with good salary and benefits and no student debt. We're constantly told that four-year degrees at traditional universities are the pathway to financial stability, but that is increasingly proving to be a lie. If you take unionized carpenters, electricians, sheet metal workers, plumbers, iron workers, and operating engineers often make up to $80,000, $90,000, or even $100,000 a year. And again, no student debt. High schools can often be good pipelines to trade schools if they offer CTE or career technical education programs. But as public school funding has been cut, CTE programs have dramatically declined. Today, only 1/3 of high schools in the United States offer vocational education. And this is really the tragedy. And in this way, they're really crushing young people from all sides. If you take Philadelphia as an example, so many students in the public schools cannot afford college, or the schools have been so underfunded that they aren't prepared for it. Then they may think they could go the route of learning a trade. But again, the CTE programs have also been cut, so they're not prepared for that either. And they won't be able to get a good paying job that doesn't require a college degree. They're trapped with no options except low wage work. And then we all act surprised when more people turn to crime. Expansion of CTE programs and trade schools should be a bigger focus in this infrastructure bill. And in hand with trade schools are apprenticeship programs, and which allows people to get on-the-job training for a trade while getting paid. And on this score, the infrastructure bill is actually a little bit better. So this is from the Pittsburgh Gazette saying, President Joe Biden announced his support to create nearly 1 million new apprenticeship opportunities, with a focus on the recruitment of women, people of color, and others who have been excluded from such training programs. According to federal figures, 94% of apprentices who complete registered apprenticeships are employed upon completion, earning an average starting wage of above $70,000 annually. Trade schools help get people into apprenticeship programs, and often union-run apprenticeship programs offer superior pay on the job and world-class safety training. So let's look at some members from IBEW Local 569 in San Diego talking about the benefits of apprenticeship programs for young people.
You can learn while you earn.
Earn as you learn. So what we've decided to do is to invest our time in this community to get the information out about these opportunities so that they can make an educated decision.
It's exciting for me to see people that are vested in our youth and not just giving lip service.
My belief is that if you keep people dumb, you can keep them down. If you can take and get the knowledge, then that knowledge converts to cash.
It's a life-changing experience for a lot of students who may not even know that this option is available to them. Astronomical, or what the impact can be to community.
With our electrical workers, they actually start at $16.40 an hour. They get health benefits. They start accruing a pension from day one, and they're receiving periodic raises every 6 months. So at the end, they're making about $86,000 a year, tuition free.
And come out of the trades with a journey certificate without any student debt.
Our goal is to train these individuals to be able to go out and be competitive in our industry, to actually have a lifelong career. As a female, we make the same wage as men do out in the field. And that is consistent all throughout our apprenticeship program. And even when we become journeyman electricians, that consistency stays there. Equal pay for equal work, and that's all across the board.
A career in the trades means an ability to support your family do great work for the community and leave a lasting legacy?
For me, it's really been sort of a door opener. It's allowed me to use a lot of skills that I have, as far as being able to troubleshoot, fix things, build things, put them together. And construction really gives, especially a female, sort of a pride of ownership, because you can build something or construct something and walk away and say, that was me, I did that.
For me, it's been just the greatest of an opportunity. It's been a blessing. So I'm trying to make sure that I don't leave the door opportunity closed behind me, that I share that with others, because anything that you have that's worth having is worth sharing.
Increasingly, more and more building trades unions are recognizing the lack of diversity in the trades and are using apprenticeship programs to intentionally recruit more women and people of color. A recent article in the Philadelphia Inquirer highlighted the efforts of building trades unions here to diversify, saying, in response to demand and labor shortages, almost every building trade union wants to diversify the group of apprentices. But the building trade unions are still learning how to reach people who may not have had an uncle, brother, or father in unions, which have been predominantly white and male. For women, the added complication is that many haven't seen construction jobs as an option. One of the aha moments was not to focus on high school seniors and young women. Across the country, they've learned that many women make the choice to enter the trades in their mid-20s to mid-30s. That's the case with painter Renisha Williams, 34, of West Philadelphia, who was earning $14 an hour doing housekeeping at the convention center. Williams met a female plumber who was working at the Philadelphia Housing Authority site where she lived. The plumber encouraged her to join PHA's pre-apprenticeship program. Now, Williams earns more than $40 an hour plus benefits. Apprenticeship programs can also be critical second chance opportunities for people with a criminal record or people who have had issues with substance abuse. Let's take a glimpse at the story of Ralph, who's a sheet metal apprentice who started while still on parole.
One of the places that he went to was the JATC, which is the sheet metal apprenticeship. He walked in there and he was just really, really excited.
As soon as I walked into that shop and met the staff and met the people, I was like, this is it. Hola. I didn't know what to expect because I have never been on a construction site before. The first process is getting you materials handling, just getting you on a job site so you're familiar with it, and then making sure that everybody has their material they need. And I did that for about 6 months, and then I got my first chance to install. It was a simple task, but it was like, we're going to start you small, and I rocked it. I did excellent. And I moved on from that to actual ductwork. This is technically the biggest ductwork I have installed in my apprenticeship. Everybody needs air, so as long as you're in a building that needs air, sheet metal is going to be around because we have to provide it. What we have here is a sheet metal hammer. This particular screwdriver itself is amazing because the tip will pierce metal. Your snips are going to probably be your third most important. Your duct hoist is your biggest friend when it comes to lifting that ductwork. Your tote tray, I got this from a journeyman who helped me out because he's seen that I didn't have one.
I just see a change in him. He's more confident. He has pride in what he does every single day. You know, he's so proud to go to work. He's so proud to go to the union meetings.
I was going to almost every union meeting at the beginning of my apprenticeship. So I'd bring my wife and my kids down there and they're like, hey, come on, here's some food. Sit down. The kids can, be careful, but you guys can run around if you want.
It's just this really great environment where they support your family as a whole.
If we can start making progress on the Green New Deal this decade, that will mean the most massive overhaul of the nation's infrastructure since the first New Deal. This is the moment to start building up our industrial workforce and offer millions of workers a ticket to high-paying jobs without going into debt for the rest of their life. We'll need to dramatically expand the funding of trade schools to do that. And Jen, when I look at my student loan payments and then I think about a carpenter who's making more than me with no student debt, I kind of have a little pang of regret. The only problem is I can't even put together IKEA furniture, let alone build a building. But
Paul, that's why you need an apprenticeship.
That's true. Yeah, I need an apprenticeship.
I just want to say, by the way, you're the king of finding the most wholesome clips imaginable between what you just showed today and the shop stewards clip that we showed a couple episodes ago. Just incredibly, incredibly wholesome content.
Right. I mean, unions are just incredibly wholesome. I'm trying to tell people, but they're the most
you heard it here first.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing that trade schools have been in decline, and especially again, we're seeing the idea of college being the ticket into, you know, financial stability is just not true for so many people. So I think we need to start talking about trade schools more.
You know, I feel like I should quickly mention that I don't know if anybody remembers, but a couple episodes ago, I talked about Tom Cotton's big plan or proposal to tax college endowments of like the top wealthiest schools and use the money to fund trade schools. That's actually a really good idea. Now, of course, the context in which he was offering this solution was just simply to punish what he perceived to be Ivy League schools over wokeness. I think we can all agree that Tom Cotton is no friend to the working class. He probably doesn't even really care that much about trade schools or blue collar jobs. So that was like a proxy culture war that he had going on. That said, not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for that basically. So yeah, and it's like if we're talking about creating all these new jobs, I mean, you do need a workforce for that. And I mean, in certain sectors like HVAC, which would be like sheet metal workers, they actually are claiming that there is a big shortage out there. And that's the thing, part of the problem, if you don't have a pipeline from existing public schools that have a CTE program into, like, you're not going to build up the workforce to the scale that we would need.
Do you think that Democrats could be doing more to push for trade school? I mean, like, to go back to the Tom Cotton thing, like, they should have been the ones to come up with that idea, right?
Yeah, and again, I mean, and what Tom Cotton's able to play on is, like, you know, the idea of Democrats and liberals being cultural elites. And again, of course, the Democrats lean into that by being more associated with universities. And again, of course, I don't have anything against universities, but, you know, you could, I think, be appealing to way more people talking about trade schools. And actually, you know, there in Delaware County, which is right outside Philadelphia, we had an election a few years back where a lefty was running, and what came extremely close to overturning a Republican seat. It would have been the first time in 30 years a Democrat won. And that was actually a big part of her platform, was reviving funding for trade schools, and almost worked. It came very close. But.
I'm thinking now that I think one reason why we don't hear more about trade schools and apprenticeships in the media is because, you know, much like the Democratic Party elite, the media is primarily made up of people who are college graduates, right? Or have our professional managerial class, or are more interested in college as kind of this pathway to prosperity than they are in sort of bolstering or amping up things like trade schools or apprenticeships. And just as a contrast, I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, maybe like closer to 10 years ago at this point, sort of around the Occupy heyday, there was a lot of talk in the media about internships, which is, you know, I don't want to say the white collar equivalent of apprenticeships, because for one thing, apprenticeships are paid and internships famously are not. But this was a huge preoccupation of people in the media, you know, at the time, myself included. And I think it was because, you know, so many people in the media had to do internships before they became journalists or, you know, NGO, you know, personnel or whatever. But that just goes to show how, you know, certain things kind of catch on in the media and other things like trade schools don't, precisely because of the types of people who are working in those organizations.
Right. And, you know, we should be very wary of hearing the term job training from neoliberals, because often what it is, it's an excuse of a program in lieu of an actual jobs program. And that, and again, what's good with apprenticeship is that, you know, you're not creating this job training for jobs that don't exist. You provide the jobs first, and people will be trained as they're working. And something, you know, Bayard Rustin used to always say is like, you know, look at what we did during World War II. We basically just like, you know, fast track to full employment, and we built planes and tanks and all this crap. We didn't need all these like fake job training programs in order to do that. Like, if you create the jobs, you can do the training while people are, you know, in the process of working those jobs.
If you like this video from The Jacobin Show, please hit like and subscribe. You can also watch the full episode and catch our future live streams by clicking the join button below and becoming a Jacobin YouTube member. Thanks.